All right, let's get this show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. I do like to talk a little bit, allow people to jump into the room. It's 4 o'clock. It's Friday. It's Community Beacon. We are
There it is.
we are here in the place to be. Another Friday. What a blessing. I'm Mike Seville, Palm Beach Mike, as you see on the prompter down there. Uh, I'm getting a little bit more excited as we keep going. Of course, on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah,
side of
yeah,
the
yeah.
screen, we got my brother from another mother, the Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation.
We are here. We are here. Oh man. Oh man. Go back to Palm Beach, Mike.
We, we gotta get a little hype. We gotta get
what
it going.
what time for Palm Beach, Mike? There it is. There it is. Oh,
I'm gonna have to watch to see how loud those things are, man, to see what it does to the show. Um, we're here. It's Friday. It's Community Beacon. Another chance that we get to opportunity rather to share, to discover, to have a conversation. I heard Killer Mike say conversate. I just want to conversate. That's what he says.
that's what he
That's all,
said.
yeah, that's an awesome podcast too. Killer Mike is one of those. I think they're just gonna pass the baton to him in regards to just the entire civil rights movement, especially and coming from Atlanta, which is like the epicenter of the African American community. Some of the stuff that he speaks about, because if you're not from Atlanta, you've never had this experience. What experience, Mike? It's like where you feel as if you are the majority. If you're if you're black, everyone in Atlanta, and they're prosperous and they're moving and there's all kinds of things going on, and just his breadth and depth of information that was taught to him over there, so he's an interesting character. If anybody has a chance to go check out his podcast, Conversate with Killer Mike, dope conversation. And he's also probably one of the best lyricist of my time. For him to be going from where he came from to where he is now, insane. And still, he got his first Grammy. Oh, he actually swept the Grammys. What is it, a year before last? Because that album was a classic and timeless. Michael, and it's not just because it's my name, but
I don't know.
it
I don't
added
know. Now
it,
that you say that,
it added to it. But it won the Grammy, and I called it. I said, "Listen, if he doesn't win the Grammy, that trophy is essentially worthless." After Nipsey didn't win it for Victory Lap, I stopped tuning in. I could care less. I said, "Oh, this is not for my taste." And then when he came back and won, they kind of sucked me back in again to figure out who's winning Grammys. And him, Killer Mike, and I'm giving you all the people I listen to: Killer Mike, Freddie Gibbs. These are all 40-plus-year-old rappers, and they've been in the game for years, and they're still maintaining a high level of lyricism. We, probably past Jay-Z. Jay-Z might be done. Nas has done pretty well as well, longevity-wise, but Freddie Gibbs and Killer Mike, that's who got it for me. All right.
yeah. Hold on. Who is this? Saida Mishaya. Hey, just giving a shout out to her. She said, "Call my name." And Joanne Adele 06.
Good
I
morning.
appreciate y'all.
Good
Appreciate
morning.
y'all. That's it. That's it. We want a
Shouts
little
out
shout
to
out.
yeah. Shouts out to you all. I know the brother probably butchered the names, but I'm glad he did it, because if he didn't butcher the name, I for sure would have.
Ah, y'all forgive me. Forgive me. It's all in love.
No,
We
well, maybe you
appreciate
didn't.
you. We
Maybe you
appreciate
didn't.
you.
Maybe you didn't. I know I would have. So, all right, let's get into it. We ready?
Yeah, we ready. We ready.
Gave a quick hip hop culture from Mike's perspective, and now we can jump into this.
Hey, but hold on. With the hip hop culture. Yo, Mob Deep is making a comeback, huh?
How? Are you mob? The one brother passed away a couple years
Havoc.
ago. Yeah. No.
Havoc is
Prodigy. Prodigy passed
Prodigy is
away.
gone,
Havoc.
but Havoc
Yeah.
is going crazy with Nas. Oh my gosh, man.
Was that the
They
new
are
album?
just,
Did they just do something with Big L that dropped today? Correct.
I don't know, man. Don't get
Okay.
me lying on that, man. I don't know that well. But
Ain't no
no,
such
man.
thing as halfway crooks. That's what Mob D said back.
Hey,
The
you know
silence.
that I made a major change in my life based off of that song?
Oh yeah, what was it? Quiet Storm. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
it was called, but I remember that song. Ain't no such thing as halfway crooks, never around when the people. Yeah, man, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. I made a huge change in my life. Like that was a
Right.
pivotal moment for me.
Right.
Going through that song, and it actually wasn't. The change was not actually going 100% street. It was actually that I was ready to make a change to not be street, and I didn't want to be halfway. So it's like I either you gonna be all street or you can be no street. And I made the I decided I'll never forget this, Mike. I was sitting on the back patio in Hampton, Virginia, with my mom, and I just got out of incarceration, and we were sitting there talking, and she was like, "Joe, we need to make some changes. I don't know if you're gonna be around any longer." And these are back in the days when I didn't know if I was gonna make it to see my 18th birthday. She looked at me, and I was like, "You're right. You're right." And I'm telling you, as I was sitting there, it was a cloudy sky, and she was like, "I think we should go to Florida." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Mom, there's a song that I listen to from this group called Mob Deep." And I said, "This is how it goes." And I started to sing the song. And I was like, "Ain't no such thing as halfway crooks." And I said, I think it was called Shook Ones. The
Shook
Shook,
ones. Yeah, that would have.
Shook Ones. And then I was like, "I'm not going to do that no more. I'm going to do this. That's it." And so I said, "Let's go to Florida." And that's how we got to Florida. That was the pivotal moment. And when I did that, the clouds broke up in my backyard, and I felt the rays. I felt the heat of the rays on me, and my mom was like looking backwards at the. She was like, and I said, "I think God spoke," and she was like, "Yeah." And from that point, man, it was like, pack them up, pack them up, pack them up, pack them. And I came to Florida.
Yeah, what an impactful moment. And the ability for um it kind of like you can automatically go back to that moment from the clouds opening up and also relating it to all the songs because I would imagine, at the stage that you were in life, a lot of people didn't get the message from the song in that kind of way. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to go deeper into a certain direction. I would imagine, right? Because it's not necessarily a gospel song or get back to work song. Or you, but that's really the message of it, right? I almost say like songs, I think in general, but there's certain people who can put songs together that you can draw, whatever stage that you are in life, you can draw things from. So what a positive, what a powerful way to recollect that. And it talks about, the power of music and therefore communication. What was being communicated at that time, which is the topics that the series that we've been going over for the past couple of weeks. And from the text message you sent me today, apparently we're culminating. Today is the last episode, if I'm not mistaken. That's the gist I got from the text message. Am I wrong to think that, or uh where where we at with it?
No, absolutely. So it was just a recap. You know that we got a team in the background, and when you start moving and I start moving, I just send the message out to the team, and whatever they do, that's where we headed. Unless you come up with a different idea and I come up with a different idea, then I'll send that message out to the team, and then they have to recalibrate. So that was the message, and I was like, "There's so much happening right now. That's where we at." So if you want to
Yeah.
go for another one next week, we go for another one next week because it's
I'm,
our show. We do whatever we want.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Just we can just recap a lot of things because there was some powerful conversations that we've had in the last couple of weeks, just as we set the stage for talking about communication. We went from just the awareness of communication, the goals that we were looking at, the tools to be used. One of the huge tools that we spoke about was that was number two, was silence as a tool. And I'm just recapping this for you all to go get a chance to go back and take a look at it, whether you're looking at it on the Tenacity Foundation site, if you're coming on Facebook Live, Twitch, Instagram, wherever you're coming from, go back and check out. We actually have these episodes where we really went into depth on it and communicated it as best as we could, I would imagine, and only how we could, because we were drawing a lot of things that came out of it. Even episode 3, where we really talking about, to me, was like the embodying of the communication, figuring out different guidelines, right? And then the framework, and allowing ourselves to kind of break out of these different frameworks. That last episode, especially the last maybe 10 to 15 minutes of it, got really, really in depth. And I mean, we can continue going and see how we can get into the practical application and the awareness as we continue moving with it.
I like that. I like that, man. And I know there's like a 5 to 10 second delay, y'all. So I'm just gonna put down the open so that everybody knows. I sent Mike a little private chat, but I want you all to know there's like a 5 to 10 second delay. So you're gonna hear us take a little bit longer pause in between each other's speech to make sure that the next man got a chance to clear himself. Um, my thought on that is like, go for it, man. Open that door up for us.
Uh, it was interesting as we went into this conversation, and I don't know if it was rather the chicken or the egg kind of thing, or the egg or the chicken. I don't know which came first, but all of a sudden I kind of got back a renewed interest in communication. There's a certain way that I communicate from just years and years of training, whether it was sales training, whether it was Toastmasters, and just picking up on the type of style and model of how I communicate with people, effectively communicating. We are oftentimes we're just talking, but just having effective communication. One of the books that I mentioned before was what was it? The Way. I want to make sure I get it. This is by Phil M. Jones. How to Say It.
Mm.
Right? I think it was How to Say It. Give me a second. Exactly What to Say. And they
Mhm.
had different, he had two different ones. Exactly What to Say. He had one for real estate agents, and he had one just in general. And his focus was really about mastering the moments, like really thinking about what it is to say and the easiest way to say it, right? Like he said, he said, and this will help you all. I will give you a real quick tip. He's like, this will help save you hours. Instead of going home and asking your significant other, what do you want to eat? Right?
Mhm.
He said one of the best things, he said, you want to make your question easier for them to answer. Because if oft times, and maybe I'm the only one, like, what do you want to eat? It's emphatic, I don't know. What do you want to eat? Right. So it kind of plays this back and forth. And he said, how about putting a thought into it? And this is mastering the moment, because this is not the last time that you'll have this conversation. You'll probably have it, something similar to it throughout your entire life. And so he said, what you could say is, what did you have to eat for lunch? And then, whatever, because now you're actually getting them to think about something specific.
Mm.
What did you have for lunch? Not you can automatically imagine if you had, maybe you didn't eat anything, right? Or maybe you did have something. Okay, I had a sandwich. Okay, what time was that? Okay, so 12 or 2 o'clock. All right, perfect. Um, this is a little twist. Oh, would you be opposed to us getting, right? Like would you be, you already know what they ate. If they said they had Chinese food, chances are they probably want Chinese food. But now it's like, would you be opposed to getting? This also uses some of the principles from Never Split the Difference. And really, originally, the person who came up with this was Jim Camp, who said, lead with no. So it's like, would you be opposed to getting, whatever it is that you're, a pizza, right? Like, would you be opposed to getting a pizza? No. And he's saying that what no does, this is, I'm putting a couple of frameworks together. So forgive me if I'm going really fast. Let me start with the master and the communicate the moment, because this is one of the things that I've spoken about this entire series, about actually putting thought into what's going to be effective for the moment, not leaving it in the hands of someone else, but allowing them to ask or not ask questions, right? Or kind of leading them in the direction. After a long, and just in this simple example, after a long day of work or whatever it is that this person had to do, now you're giving them one more thing to think about. As opposed to, we spoke last week about leadership, leading them in the conversation. Leading doesn't mean to overpower them. Leading doesn't mean to manipulate them. This is not a manipulation tactic. If you're thinking manipulation is this is just leading, that giving them easier questions to answer. Now you can take this probably into any context or any context of life, of how can I form a question to make it easier for the other person to answer? Not only make it easier for the other person to answer, but giving them their autonomy to say no, right? Like giving them an autonomy to say no. Oftentimes in sales, for a long, long time, and I would imagine at some point in time, this was very, very effective. We had this yes lap thing, where it was like you would say, get them to say yes 3 times, right? Yes, yes, yes. And then you ask them a question, and since you've already got the momentum of yes, they're more likely to say yes. Here's the interesting thing is that they may say yes, but they may not like you for saying yes. Right. So what we're doing with this framework is making the question easier for them to answer, allowing them the autonomy to answer the question with honesty, or how they want to answer the question. And then we can go back and take a look at it and say, and that's okay. Would you be opposed to pizza? Pizza's not going to be really good for me. Right? Because I don't want the carb. Okay, that makes sense. But we're also getting somewhere. Okay, so it sounds like you want something to be a little bit more healthy. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so how about a steak, right? Like whatever it is. So I guess we can it was interesting as we were going through this communication that I had the ability, and it just happened at the same time that I'm in a 3-part series with Phil M. Jones. So we get a chance to have him live. I don't know why series popping up. So we get a chance to have him live and actually teach these principles within real estate as far as effective communication. And it's just been, I want to say magical, but what it does is it allows us to think more. Like, just because this is the way that it's been done doesn't mean necessarily it could be a good way. I'm not saying don't give up the tried and true, but there's other ways to optimize and to be effective.
Mm, that's that's a good way to close that out. Optimize and be effective. Two things that I heard out of what you were saying that I like to bring to the table. You mentioned autonomy. So, in my mind, the first word that came up to me was freedom, and you alluded to, in my mind, laziness, right? Because the reason why I picked up on laziness is because you were going through. I know this was it's almost like a script, but to me, it wasn't a script. By asking somebody what they ate for lunch, and then asking them if they would oppose to pizza, and then hearing them say, I can't have the carbs, and then you providing a different option. The first thing that came to my mind is many times we as people were lazy. When we offer that question, I wonder if everyone truly cares what somebody else is thinking, or if they would just like somebody else make that they don't want to make. Like, what do you want to eat? Like, I don't feel like I'm so tired. I don't even feel like thinking about what I want to eat. And then if they say, "Oh, I like to go to Five Guys," all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, Five Guys. I had a burger yesterday." And so this is lazy communication, and it's simply because we. This is what I perceive as lazy communication. Like, give people an understanding of where we stand, and then give them the opportunity to show where they stand. But the framework that you just gave, it gives people not only freedom, but it gives them context. It gives them opportunity to actually develop a conversation. It's like sometimes we want to have an answer, but we don't want to have the conversation. We don't want to communicate. We simply want a yes or no. And that can be lazy. It can be disrespectful because we're not giving the other person the same opportunity that we have already taken within inside of our own mind to think about it. So that was something that I just pulled out of that. Uh, and then once again on the autonomy, it's like reframing, reframe. Why? Because you have every right to choose whatever you want. And I say that because that's what I desire. You know, golden text, we always say golden text is that we should do unto others as we would want them to do unto us. But nonetheless, when it comes down to things like this, especially in relationships and in communication, we don't really want people to do to us what we do to them because we use controlling frames. We use framework that guides people into a corner to produce an answer that we are satisfied with. And we want them to think that they have done it on their own. And because of that, we have destruction in communication and we have destruction in relationships.
I love it. Lazy communication. And we it's not the first time we're bringing this up, guys. I would even go further into the lazy communication into disingenuous conversation, right? Like this is a disingenuous conversation, which was leading to my next thought, which was the intention behind the conversation. We spoke about it a little bit last week, but really getting into it, like when we talk about lazy conversation, we're talking about disingenuous conversation. And what do I mean by that? It means that I really don't care what you have to say or think, right? I came into this thing wanting pizza. I might as well have just been pulled up in front. I might as well have just ordered it already instead of even asking you and allowing it to just be there. That probably would have been a more genuine move. There where it would have been any question, right? I'm ordering pizza. it'll be there in 5 to 10 minutes, or I'm picking up in 5 to 10 minutes, right? And that way, there's no like that. At least you're being genuine. Like I'm being genuine. I want pizza today. That's what I'm having. I really don't care about what it is that the carbs or the conversation after that, right? And then you now may have to get into a situation where, oh, now we get into a different type of conversation. Till you got to confront somebody. Like, that I've been working out. I've been on this health journey, and you just gonna put pizza in front of my face? or this is the option that you're giving me, right? And this just goes back into, are we clearly mastering these moments and thinking about where we're going? Is this conversation genuine or disingenuous? And this is one of the things that I ask myself during the conversation. I'm asking myself, for me, first and foremost, Michael, are you being genuine? Or is this really a disingenuous conversation? Are you waiting on this person just to stop talking so that you can interject with something? Is this other person being genuine or disingenuous? Have you ever seen someone listen and they're disingenuous and they're listening? Think about this. This person is perfectly quiet. They can be saying they're nodding and they're giving you. I had a lady do it the other day at the bank. I called the bank up. I was getting something situated, and I was just like, well, I'm just not happy about this. And she was like, mm-hmm, uh-huh, uh-huh. She said all the right things. Like, as I'm having the conversation, I even had to laugh at myself while we're going back and forth, because I'm having this thought in my mind. Like, am I being genuine or disingenuous? Am I trying to steamroll this person at the bank because she's an employee of the bank? And then I'm listening to her respond to me with the and I'm like, well, this sounds like HR taught her how to speak like this. Like, she doesn't really care about what it is that I have to say. I automatically, and when I figured that out, I was like, okay, well, there's only so much she probably can do, right? So my next thought was, okay, well, let me speak to you got a supervisor, ma'am? That's what I asked her. Oh yeah, I do have. Okay, well, can you transfer me to them? You know what I mean? But think about this in all conversations that you're having. How many times is someone not genuinely listening? And sometimes, if they're not genuinely listening, because oftentimes, and this is what we do as men, oftentimes, because we already in our mind have the solution, we're not thinking this person doesn't. If you're genuinely listening, you'll know, like, this person doesn't want to hear a solution. This person wants to be heard. You can automatically stop the wheels from turning in your head at that point in time. Because now you can sit here and say, well, I'm genuinely going to hear this person. If a solution comes up later on down the line, this may not even be the place, time, or they may not even have the capacity to hear what the solution is, because they just want to vent. They want to have this conversation with. If you're genuinely listening. Now, because we think this is a righteous thing, like, I'm so right, I can come up with the solutions. I'm a critical thinker. And I am. But it's like, I got a solution for this person. That person doesn't want to hear it. And this goes for any conversation you have. It could be male, it could be female, it could be employees, relationships, whatever it is. Am I genuinely listening to this person? And then now you go even deeper. I'm just going to go one more level deep. What really is this person saying? Because although people talk, they're not necessarily communicating. This is the power of communication. What exactly is this person getting at? They sound very passionate about this. I understand it. But what exactly are they saying? I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to give them the words. I'm just listening. And it goes back to one of the things that I figured out and I spoke about in our first episode. Now I'm trying to get the clarity in it, because the next thing that comes out of my mouth, oftentimes, if I'm not quite sure, is I need to be clear on what we're getting at here. And what sets me up for the next time is, do I need to set boundaries for this person? Right? Because I'm not imploring you all just to be a dumping ground for toxic people. I want you to genuinely listen to people. I want you to actually hear what they're actually saying. I don't care if they're old, young, whatever. And we tend to give younger people more leeway on they may not understand. Excuse me. We tend to give older people the benefit of the doubt, like they know what they're saying. But when these feelings and this passion and this emotion and something possibly new that they're experiencing is happening, they themselves don't even know what they're communicating. And so now we can kind of come back and ask them questions. All right. So when you say, and me and the brother do it all the time, I know I do it all the time now. Now, when you said this, what exactly do you mean by that? Because what I'm searching for in this point is clarity and just alignment. Because you know how it is when we get passionate. Sometimes we express something and it's like, if someone's not used to that, or they're not around that, or they haven't seen it before, or you're just being very passionate and aggressive, it can be skewed in a different kind of way because now I'm thinking about something else. Oh, the last time this happened, this. So now I'm going back and when I'm retracing this, if I'm a genuine listener, if I don't want to have lazy communication, I'm clarifying. And at the same time, I'm setting, and this is advanced. This is advanced. I'm also setting ways for me to get out of this conversation, or because this conversation at some point has to come to a close for me. And so I'm listening. Can I help this person or support this person? Do I know whatever it is? Do I have the capacity to do it? One thing that we end up doing is we do end up being dumper grounds. But do I have the capacity for it? Okay, I do. How much capacity do I have? Okay, so let's start to set some parameters around this conversation. If it's a conversation where people just want to vent, I'm trying to give you some tips. Person wants to vent, a person wants to go. Let me set some parameters about this conversation. Okay, hey, pardon me, brother or sister, whatever it is. I got about 10 more minutes and then I'm gonna exit, but I do want you to continue. You know what I mean? Like I do want you to continue, but I got about 10 more minutes and then, or if say it's a sales conversation, I'm gonna tell you about a sales conversation. You're gonna hear some stuff. Like I'm in real estate, probably one of the most emotional decisions that a person can make. Life, I mean, it's huge. Probably besides probably getting married or something, because they're definitely going to be crying for most people at that. But real estate tends to be a very emotional transaction. And so you're going to hear, especially if they're vested in the house or they're vested in the money they believe they want to make off the house. So we're getting into these conversations. And so you kind of got to keep it in a straight line. I'll give a real quick example. When I was new in the business, is I remember having a conversation with the older guy, and he's an awesome guy. Oh, all my clients tend to be awesome. And I mean, this was my first time. I think the property at the time was worth about 2.1 million. And I'm having a conversation with this guy. I met with the guy twice. Can I tell you how much time I spent having a conversation that wasn't about real estate? Easily 12 to 13 hours. I was there for 6 hours one time, and I was there for another 6 hours another time. And I said, this, I can be very empathetic, but I'm just like 12 hours. Like I'm sitting there like all day long on this guy's couch, and he's just talking. I mean, he's a very successful person. He's amassed this thing, but it was time for, he's 80 plus years old. It's time for him to move on to greener pastures, so to speak. I would imagine in his mind, he wanted to enjoy his life, but he wanted to talk about every step along the way. And I didn't have the communication skills. So in my mind, I was using time versus skill, right? Because since I didn't have the skill, I was like, I'm just going to use the time. But what I've learned over, what is it now? Close to 10 years now in sales. What I've learned over 10 years in sales is that that's nice and it's empathetic and you can always have that conversation. right? There's a time and place for that, but we were at a time and place where we had to have a conversation about moving his property, right? Like transacting his property. And as a professional and an expert, I had to ask myself, well, over those 12 hours, did I even give him clarity?
Mm.
And I didn't, because I didn't get the deal, right? I didn't get the listing. But because I didn't provide clarity with this person, all I just wanted to talk about the emotions and the feelings, and that's happening regardless. But it was my job to provide clarity, right? Be genuine, listen, provide clarity, and keep us on what Jordan Belfort would call like a straight line, right? You want to keep people on a certain straight line, and they respect you more for that. Who do you think he respected as far as selling his property? Was it going to be me, or was it going to be somebody who came in there and was like, okay, yeah, I'm listening to you, but here's the plan of how we're going to get to the next step and closing the gap of it, right? Off time, and I know this is a business thing, but this happens in all relationships. Is like, what is, first off, what is this about? Genuinely, what exactly is this person saying? What he was saying to me, if I could go back and look at it, was like, hey, Mike, this is a super emotional decision for me. Like over time, I've amassed this. This is my life's work, essentially, right? Like, this is my life's work. And I need to feel comfortable knowing that, number one, that you're going to handle this correctly, right? You're not going to make me sign a contract, and I'm not going to hear from you, or you're not going to handle this with the delicateness of my entire life. This is what I should have been telling him. This is the information I should have been giving him as we had this conversation. I totally understand. And just know that I'm just not going to disappear. Like this is the thoughts that are happening in their mind. He knows that I'm capable of doing it, but he's saying, are you capable of doing it with me? And what is the process and the steps? Can you get me clear on the steps? And he was in real estate, so he understands the steps. But Mike, do you understand the steps? That's what I needed to convey. Let's talk about something different in the same breath. Your significant other is coming to you about something. Are you, and he or she wants to be vulnerable with you, and they're saying all of this stuff, because really oftentimes it boils down to it's not super complicated. Emotions are complicated, but the conversation is not super complicated. It's boiling down to, can I inform you of these things? And what they're looking at, even if you're listening, is like, okay, so what is this person's body language is like? You ever been in a conversation where you had to answer? Like, what do you think that looks like to the other person when you're just waiting to say something while they're being vulnerable to you? Like they just want to, you already have this information. I just want to get it out. Sometimes you're interrupting. Sometimes your eyes are wide like this, like what it is. They're looking to you to say, okay, well, can I be vulnerable with this person? Is this person capable of taking this all in and not judging me? That's huge. That's why the ladies love me, because I'm not judging. Is this person judging me? And what's going to happen next? Right? Are you capable of that? All right, brother, I'm gonna let you.
That was a couple of seconds. That was probably 10 seconds ago where you said
No.
it's
It's
over.
not that. It's not that long. I think
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's about three, maybe 2 to 3 seconds. Right? And
Okay.
essentially, my thing is listening to
Oh,
learn and not to win, not to
yeah.
thought.
But that was a lot right there, Mike. That was a lot to unpack. I think that for me, seeing that I don't have my normal notebook with me right now, so I want to respond to mostly this last piece, because that was a very interesting conversation. I thought your example of a real estate agent, you being a real estate agent, dealing with a real estate agent in the 12 hours, I thought that was just like That's crucial. Talk about a recap of so many different things that we have been talking about for the last 3 weeks. A lot of those things happen in that opportunity. The leadership, the guidance, the straight line that you were also talking about. You know, um, so many different things happen in that very moment right there, and it's like when we're dealing with relationships, any type of relationship, the key to getting a good conversation is being observant. But I think that you just showed everybody, you showed us all that there is a point where, hey, you know what, break the rhythm. Because what I heard in that story was that this guy ultimately needed you to break the rhythm. He was lost in his own emotions. He was lost in his own to do. And because this thing was so close to him, even though he was a professional and he understood the framework, he understood the pillars, he understood how this thing goes, how we go from point A to point Z. This now was him, and everything was wrapped up in it. And all of a sudden, what was very clear became cloudy. And so, my example of that will be in the medical field. There are many medical professionals that when it hits home, their mind goes. The very simple things that they know to do, that they practice, all of a sudden they're looking at their child and they're like, and they're trying to pull it all in, but they can't. They can't think about anything. Fear may be rapturing them, right? The chance that they do the wrong thing may be wrapped. And they got all these protocols, they've got all this experience, and it's in their fingertips, but they cannot see clearly. Their lenses are fogged up, their mind is a blur, and they need somebody else to step in. So, what I'm hearing in that is the power of silence and the power of leadership, the communication, being able to recognize that and understanding that some people may not recognize that. Going back to what you were talking about a little bit earlier about the autonomy, and then also about the leading, guiding people, like giving people the freedom to be themselves and to be free thinkers. But when we recognize that that is what's going on in the environment, listening to actually hear if this person is rambling or if they actually have a clue, if they're on a high horse and they just want to passionately or aggressively, or they just want to shout out whatever it is. They're dumping their garbage, their verbal garbage, their heart's garbage all over the place. And we have to be able to sit back and say, okay, like you said before, what's really happening here? Are we still in this communication? Are we actually going somewhere with this, or are you just throwing up words and letters all over us? And then we need to be able to say, okay, hey, time out. Let's just stop for a moment because I want to make sure that I'm still connected to the conversation and where we're going, the purpose of this conversation. So, can we realign this? What is it exactly that you want me to understand from what you're saying? What is the message? Can you give it to me in just 2 sentences so that I can recalibrate? Those pauses right there and those moments of redirection, they'll tell us a whole lot. Because if the person comes back and they're angry, frustrated, and they start verbally dumping again, we already know they are disconnected. This is not about me, this is about them. And they are only having a conversation for themselves. And maybe we just need to cut this thing short. We need to go ahead and, like you said earlier, hey, listen, I'm disconnected in 10 minutes. So if we can get to a point, because I need to make a move. And if it's an emotional tie, this isn't so easy. These are, man, I'm telling you, Mike, this is so good what you brought up, because this isn't so, this may not be so easy if we're talking about husband and wife, because I'm invested in your emotions, right? I'm invested in your heart. I'm invested in your purpose. I'm invested in your wealth. I'm invested in so much of you. I've given up. I've I've accepted your life as mine, and I want to fix whatever this thing is. But sometimes that thing is not fixable right now, and it's not fixable by me. Some of these things only you can fix, and you need to be able to see it. And me telling you that you need to be able to see it ain't doing us any good, because you don't want to hear me tell you that you need to see it. Because the thing that you're looking at, you may be blaming me for, and not taking ownership, agency over your own stuff. And so, I mean, all of this is just coming up out of that conversation that you had with a man for 12 hours. 12 hours.
12 hours. It was learning. Here was something, because you just said something. I think we get a chance to really jump into that in regards to emotional investment and or agency, and what it is that we expect the other person to take responsibility for or accountability for. 1000%. Everyone has a level of responsibility and accountability that they are that I would say that you have to own that, right? Like there's at least have a foundation of it, right? There's times when there's people who don't, and if they don't have it, I'm telling you, leave them alone. If it's gotten that, if you just figured it out, and it's 3 to 4 or 5, 10 years later, and this is going on, and they won't even. It's almost psychopathic, right? Like dealing with a psychopath, like a real diagnosed psychopath and or a real narcissist. I hate the word because it's been overused. There's only 1 to 2%
Mm,
of people in the world that are actually diagnosed as narcissists. The funny thing about it is, you listen to a psychiatrist, I think it was Dr. Orion Taraban. They did a study where they said all you got to do is ask, and they actually are proud of being a narcissist. So if you ask them, are you a narcissist? A narcissist is proud of the fact that they're narcissists, right? So there's a quick test for you guys who say, I'm in a relationship with a narcissist. All right, I'm not going to get too. We can go off the pathway with that. So what I'm saying is, just in if you're looking at a person who has the foundation, can own up to certain things, you're good, right? Just ask the person you're dealing with, has anything went wrong in your life? Yes, it has. Have you been at fault for any of it? The next answer is going to draw you a little bit closer to what kind of person you're dealing with. If they say no, I'm telling you, just turn around and just run in the other direction, because chances are it's not going to get better, right? You're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. You never did nothing wrong in life. It's always somebody else's fault. I don't have the time on this broadcast to give you the tools in order to deal with what you got to deal with. Because I'm telling you, I wouldn't deal with it. I don't have the tools to deal with it, right? And that's a hard lesson for some people to learn, because these are people who you may be emotionally invested in. Now
mm,
we're talking about a person who's saying, okay, well, I can take responsibility and accountability. Okay, now we have something to work with, right? Like now we have a place to go. And if this is if this is me and a significant other, whatever it is, I'm always going to say, well, how can I do better? And then how much time am I going to spend on getting better with this? Because chances are this is a recurring theme. These things didn't happen in a vacuum. You developed a relationship like this. So it's going to take, if you deciding that you want to change, you want something better, right? You want there's more to it. You want a more positive relationship, it's going to take learning the tools. And this is not just reading a book, right? You can't just read, never split the difference, and I got it, right? This is an actual skill that you need to practice, and you practice it all the time. One of the things that Chris Voss talks about is how to get an upgrade at a hotel. You can practice um certain skills that he gives you, right? Like you say, hey, listen, I know you're gonna think I'm just here to get over on you. You're gonna think the worst of me. I'm the worst person in the world. But you think you can upgrade me to a better hotel room, right? Like he's just saying, like this is one of the times that you can use to practice these different skills that he's teaching, right?
Mhm.
So this is when you decide that I want this thing to be better, right? You have to figure out, how do I get this other person to buy in? It's not just, oh yeah, Mike changed today, so I believe him, right? No, Mike's been this way for 35, 36 years. This is his personality. Let's see how this goes. So now we're talking about consistency. We're talking about um integrity. We're talking about like real, like this is the work that I'm telling people that they need to do. Right? Like this is actually putting in the time and the effort to be the best you. And if you want to have effective communication, it just does. Most people aren't born with it, right? Most people just aren't born with effective communication. This takes work. This takes tools. The great thing about this is that the more that you work on it, and I hate using the word more, the more that you practice the tools, the more enjoyable it becomes, the more favorable outcomes that you may get. You're going to start speaking to people and you're going to get a different side of them, because now you're starting to draw things out that you may have never known, right? Like this is even I would imagine with a significant other, this may be an entirely new side of them that you haven't seen, that they may not know. But this takes work, because a lot of this stuff shows up on your face. I always talk about the sign language, right? Shame, ignorance, guilt, the need to be right. These are the structures and tools of a culture. So when somebody says things that aren't necessarily in the culture that they may be thinking about, and they're looking for someone to confide in or be vulnerable with, your face essentially can give it away, right? Because they're looking at these, what they call microaggressions. They're looking at these things because those things are kept to keep things in mind. Like you can't even help it if this is the first time you heard it. So these are certain things you need to practice to where it's allowed for you to be okay. Because the goal of this communication is to bring back the connection, or not even bring it back, just to connect where was a disconnection. And you need to be paying attention. You need to be working on these skills in order to get there.
That's it. I love it. I love it. I agree. I agree. I know when I had read that book, Chris Never Split the Difference. I know one of the first things I did was I just so happened I had finished that book and I went to go get new tires or something like that. That guy called me up. Oh, it was on, Mike. It was on. Oh, man, was it on? That man called me up. Man, I said, listen, and I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not gonna tell them how much money I actually have. So I'm not gonna lie about it. I got the money. I just don't want to pay it, and I want to try this out.
Right.
So man, he called me up. He was like, "All right, Mr. Simmons, that thing's gonna be like $1,100, $1,200, something like that." I said, "Oh my God, are you sure you don't have any type of discount at all?" Hold on, Mr. Simmons. Okay, we got it down to 999. Oh, I really need to have that. Yes, yes, yes. Man, don't you know I got that man? I gave him, I got him down to like $800. And I said, listen, I need to get it right now. Can I pay you? I don't know what the number was, $681.15. And he said, I don't want to take your last dime. I said, I need to get it done. He was like, hold on, let me. He said, you're taking everything out of me. He said, just bring the card with you. And I got it for half the price. And I just used every single technique. And that last one was, it was the blow to the head, man. It really, really worked. And so, like what you're saying, practicing these skills is so true. Like, don't go home and practice. If we're talking about relationships, don't go home and practice these skills on your family. go to go to the Walmart, go to the 7-Eleven, go to the car dealership, go to the hotel, go somewhere where there's no loss. There's no loss there. At the end of the day, you're going to get the hotel room. At the end of the day, if you're going to buy the car, you're going to buy the car. At the end of the day, the people at Walmart are not going to give you the deal, or the thrift store, whatever. Walmart find out a good example. But I mean, Walmart can be a good example if you're returning something. Sometimes they try not to allow you to return things. It's not like Publix, but you have to build those things. You have to work on a way of going from mechanical to natural. And like when you're starting to input these things in the very beginning, you sound like you're reading a script, like you're coming out of a book. You sound like Mike just told you what to do. And you try to copy him. And you're like, I don't remember the last thing you said. And you don't realize you said that out loud. They're like, what?
Well, you know what I say, because I huge in role play, right? This is sales. I spent hours in role playing sales.
This is what we're talking about right here.
I mean,
yes.
Hours. God, I don't even know how many hours I've spent just doing it. But when I first started, I never got away from the exact script. Like for the first 3 to 6 months, I'm getting to the script. I would say do practice on your family, and I'm gonna tell you what, but low stakes.
Say that again.
Like you can practice on your family, but let it be low stakes. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Yeah. It's not. Don't go in and change. I don't even.
Don't wait for the crucial argument that's going to destroy your relationship.
Now you can't. Now it's going nowhere. But you need to risk sounding like a robot. This is like basketball.
I agree.
Learn the rules. Right? Learn the rules. Learn how to dribble with one hand, and then the next hand before you start going, between the legs,
behind the back.
And Allen Iverson, because I did see people who started off with, back then we had and one. I seen people who started off with and one. They could never get on the team.
That's right.
Because now you've developed so many bad habits without understanding the game. I remember this kid. I used to coach him back in the day, and he started off with and one. He probably was one of the most gifted athletes I've ever seen. And the way he would dribble the ball, it was like on a yo-yo string. And this guy had to be in the 6th, 7th grade, easily 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". Like if you looked at him, you're like, oh, this is something. He could never get away from and one. So you put him in the game, he might be okay for a little bit, but when that pressure got onto him, he was traveling or carrying. That ref was blowing that whistle all the time. So risk sounding like a robot. You sound like a robot because you've heard someone who advanced and been doing it for years. They sound very natural with it. So in your mind, we tend to be our worst critics. You sound like a robot, but you do it, and then you listen to yourself. Then you start working on your tone. Then you start working on your expressions. Then you start to say, okay, well, I've been doing this long enough, I've been getting favorable outcomes. Let's see how, if I put my little, my charisma, my spin, my way into it. And I'm telling you, it changes it. So I would start with the family. You know,
Bottom line is like build through repetition.
yeah. Build through repetition.
Yeah.
I say so. Practice. Um, but essentially coming to this because we've been taught and in sales it's interesting, right? 1980s, like late 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a way of the way business was done, right? Let's say cold calls. You call somebody up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I called Joe. Guess what? How many phones did Joe have back then?
One.
One. Where was the phone?
It was in the kitchen.
It was in the kitchen. So so oftentimes I know I don't need to call Joe between 6 and 7 or 8 because if he picks up the phone, hey, I'm eating or whatever the case may be. However, so it'll probably just ring. I'll figure out a time when the best time for people to pick up. But when they picked up, guess what? Guess what they were doing when they picked up the phone? They were
Right.
talking to
Between
you.
6 and 7 is
Right.
eating. Because
But they
before
were
that,
talking to you.
you may get them, or if it's after that, you may get them. It depends on the
Right.
work schedule.
But
But
when
they'll
they
talk
picked up
to
the
you.
phone in the kitchen, what were they doing? They were
Yeah.
talking to you. They didn't know who you were. And so, hey, you can go into your spiel. Nowadays, how many phones do people have?
Everybody's got their own personal phone. There's 5 phones in every household of a
Where is
family
the phone?
in their pocket.
Where are they? Right?
Who knows?
And they're walking, in the zoned out. They're in the gym. They're here and there. Guess what? Guess what else happens? What nowadays it's even worse. When you call, because you can tell the amount of pickup rates. Do they know who you are? Like they see a number, so what are they most expected to do? So it's just a different way of making the adjustment in sales. However, we've been taught because it did work, up until probably about 2010, cold call and the cold calls work. Let me not before someone who does sales comes and says Mike doesn't know what he's talking about. If you're going to sit in a room in real estate from 8 to 12 and you're the first one calling and you're doing this and you have it there, I'm not telling you that it doesn't work. Are there other effective ways of doing things? Absolutely. And optimized ways of doing things? Absolutely. I'm just explaining some optimized and more effective ways. Was it great to communicate a certain way when people didn't have all of the information, when people didn't have access to you all of the time? You have to take that into consideration. I want to have a conversation with my significant other over the phone. Before I would just call from work, I would call home and she's there, and then we would have that conversation. Now this person is up and about and they're doing all kinds of things. Wouldn't it be better for you to say, hey, when's a good time for us to have this conversation? Like, this is a priority. Like we have chances to kind of think. And I'm not telling you, in this entire conversation, I'm not telling you what to do. What I'm saying is that there are tools out there, and the biggest tool is in between your two ears. And you get the chance to optimize and be effective with that the way that you need to do it. Figure out the frameworks, get those type of tools, and then you get a chance to make it your own and effectively have better relationships. That's what it's about, right? Better relationships with the people that you want to do life with, business or otherwise.
Mhm. I like it because what I hear you is you're establishing your baseline. It's just foundational. It's like creating your foundation. And I agree with that. I think we should have a foundation. The foundation of communication is beautiful. The baseline of communication, the baseline and being able to listen and to sift through what other people are talking about and to pull out those action words that they're utilizing, the words that they really want you to catch, being able to recognize those. If you look at social media experts, that's what they're doing. Like when I send my stuff off to my team, I got a girl that's super good at it, and she highlights those words that need to be caught. So if somebody looks at something of mine and they don't turn the volume up, the words flash up on the screen and a different color shows up for those key words, pain points, pleasure points, whatever those are, because it helps somebody to recognize this message is for me. And since she's been doing that, it's been working out really well. And that's like what you have to do inside of a conversation. You know, that's when it's called active listening, right? Active listening, because you are truly attempting to hear what is being delivered, because everybody doesn't have the same skill of delivering a message. So, like Mike said earlier, they're not able to do a straight line. Their line is crooked. They can't even keep, it's like coloring. They can't even keep inside of the lines, coloring all over the sheet of paper. And they're like, look, mommy, look what I did. And
Mm.
that's the way that they talk. And it's everywhere. But if you're taking time to actively listen, which may take that 12-hour conversation in the beginning, that's your reps. Those are reps. Mike, you're as good as you are because you took the 12-hour one. You may not have got that deal, but look at how many more you got because you learned from it. Too many of us are sitting in the 12-hour conversations and we're not learning a thing.
That's
We're
big.
just walking away like, I can't believe that. We got nothing out of that. Anger, frustration does nothing for us. There is no failure, there's only learning. So if we take that time to learn something, the next time we don't got to be there for 12 hours. We can cut them short at 8, maybe 6, maybe 4, maybe 3. Maybe in the first sentence, they gave you everything you need to know. And you can be like, oh, hey, about that, dot, dot, dot. They're like, you get what I'm saying. Change the entire course of your day, your life, maybe, depending on who it is and what level, the, the height of importance that conversation is. I had a conversation with my daughter, and I told this story before. Someone will tell a little piece of it. We were sitting in the car, and I decided I was going to drive around the school loop to pick my son up and park all the way up in the front on the grass. Now, this wasn't normal what I do. I normally get in the line and wait, but I saw a spot all the way up in the front. And so I decided to do like this little loop around and kind of sneak over there and just like edge up on the grass. And I was like, let's see what they say to me right now. And what the difference was is I wasn't going to be coming through the loop. So that meant he wasn't going to have time to see my vehicle and then approach. He was going to have to recognize my vehicle at a different angle and come. So I was very concerned. Will he see me? In that space of me thinking about how will my son see me, my daughter took a shot at speaking about something that was very near and dear to her. She looked at me and she said she had a boyfriend. He'd like to speak with you. I sat back and went into silence for a moment, and I quickly put it together. He wants to speak with me is code for I'm looking for your approval to see if I can speak with you. Not necessarily my approval on whether or not he's okay to speak with. She wants to know, can I trust you? And I responded, I'd love to speak with him. In that very moment, my daughter just went silent. And some things started running through my mind. And then that's when I said, that must have been difficult for you. And emotionally, she broke out in tears. And we finished our conversation and everything was very successful. The point, and I drag it out. is we don't always know when these opportunities are going to happen, that we can take two, three, four words, four worded sentences, and create a bond that will last a lifetime. This was years ago for me. But that one conversation opened up a door that allowed my daughter and I to have one of the greatest trust systems that a father and a daughter can have. We are able to talk about things that are on such a high level of being personal that most parents and or children would say, wow, I can't believe you just had that conversation with your daughter or with your father. Conversations where we will come in, fixing food, sit down and say, hey, dad, let me talk to you about something. And it's become easy now. A hard conversation will just be like, so what do you really expect about from me while I live in this house? That may be difficult for some people, but for me, it's very simple because for her, it's simple. And because we established a trust, you can say whatever you want, and I can say whatever I want, but we both will be respectful. We both will honor the other person. But the key is that we both will be straight shooters. So you don't have to worry about some other thing happening, and you'll be able to trust that my love won't change. We established all of that in that very, very short sentence that she stated to me one day in the car because she wanted to try me to see if she could trust me. And I could hear it because of what we're talking about today, because of what we've been talking about for 4 weeks and practicing these things. Some of those, some of that practice that I got, it was in high stake environment. And those things hurt me. They hurt me because it's not a perfect world. We're all doing the best that we can. And sometimes you're not really trying. You're just trying to, you're just surviving. And you got to go through all of that. So if you can do like Mike said, and you can get those reps out by any means necessary, and especially practice it. I don't care. Practice it in the mirror. Practice where you're gonna talk to your wife. Practice where you're gonna talk to your children. It's worth it. It's worth not getting it wrong. It's worth it. It's worth it. Go do it.
We probably can go on forever. We won't though.
We won't shut this thing down. Y'all go somewhere else.
Because the brother got it, and I'm like, because there's so much more. There's so much more. There's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of practice. There's a lot of experience as we go through life. Ultimately, what I'm saying is that there is self mastery involved
Self
in this
mastery.
thing. It's self mastery. Um, and that's what we're here for. That's what that's why we've been going on for five years. We could never run out of things to talk about, especially in regards to this and the different experiences and the conversations. I heard the brother like that one conversation that makes your life so much easier down the line. The ability to, and this just increases your capacity. The brother could have been like, "Nah, I don't want to hear it. I'm here. I'm picking up my son. I'm picking up Jonah. I just, I was just here to relax, and now you want to hit me with something, right?" But it's like, it's that one brief moment of, huh, what this comes with your vision and your goals. Like, what I want my relationship with my daughter to be like 5, 10, if I get the chance, however long from now in the future. Let's say that. Because this is one of those moments, and I recognize it. That's a beautiful. I gotta acknowledge that the recognition that the brother had, and say, okay, let's have this conversation now. Let's do it, and that's. I was listening to a lady, a therapist recently. She was talking about capacity. She said the capacity. doesn't happen. It's not about how much you can hold, right? You know, she says it's about how much you increase it, right? It's not that you have lack of capacity. It's like you, but you're just not. You're choosing not to expand it. And just in that one conversation, probably lasted 5 to 10 minutes. Let's say that of you entering into a space. Now it increases the capacity and it increases the trust, or allow the trust to be there, the capacity to be there, the trust to be there. These things are just there. We just accept where we get to accept it.
Mm.
Great conversation, brother. The power
Yeah,
of
as
communication.
always.
Guys, Friday, time well spent.
This was a
Um,
master class on communication.
I,
It really was. We should take all four of these episodes and we should splice that thing up.
but you know what's
Man, this
interesting
was
is that
good.
what's interesting is that we haven't even like we're just brushing some of the stuff. Like it's just a little bit. We have like it gets deep. Like the brother was saying some stuff, and I was just like, here's the actual trick is. You know what I mean? Like the actual what you're going to get to is once you start to master, this is where you get to is, and this is why you reach out to people who have done it before that you can have a real life conversation with and figure out the value that you're going to provide them, and then they can provide this information to you. A lot of us are starting. I heard a guy say recently, and I end with this. It was Lil Duval. He posted this guy who was like, man, a lot of this stuff, he's 50 something years old. He says, I have to work like I'm 24 because when I turned 24, I wasted that much time.
Mhm.
Right. So for 30 years, I was stuck, is what he was saying. So now I have to do the things that I should have been doing if I had gotten the information when I was 24. Right. I'm not huge on time because right now was always the best time to start. But what did Warren Buffett say? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years
Yeah.
ago and
Mhm.
today.
That's it.
Communication is a skill, a tree that you want to start planting.
Mhm.
You're going to be better for it. You're going to get to the bottom of things. Certain people are going to leave your life because you're going to have figured something out. Some people in our lives, their intentions aren't what it's supposed to be. Some situations aren't what they are because we haven't really gained clarity of it. We haven't asked the correct questions. We haven't communicated enough. But once you start to, or at a effectively enough, once we start to get there, once you start to do it, you're going to start to notice things. And then you got to go into alignment and reconciliation because then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Like this is not what I was brought up learning about. But it is a beautiful thing, right? Once you get to it. So that's my closer. Anything to close, brother?
Yeah, I mean, just this. Like, there's a lot of bits and pieces in here. There's some skills that were dropped, and you may need to go back and like pluck them out, right? You may need to go back and pluck them out because communication is so advantageous to every single relationship that you're going to have. The bond of humanity that rests on your communication, and there's going to be those verbal and nonverbal cues. And so, like, go back, watch all of these episodes. Mike dropped a lot of gems. You know, I gave you a lot of gems. We worked it together, and both of us we have different perspectives that are they're not far from each other, but we bring it a different way. It's we bring it a different way. So you have two viewpoints at the very minimum, not to mention the viewpoints of those that we have studied and the books that we have read, which takes it into like comic type of stuff, multiverse of viewpoints. You have that opportunity. And it's not to put us up on a high horse. It's just to say that's what we bring to the table because we live it. That's it. You can tell the way Mike lives by the way he speaks. You can tell the way I live by the way I speak. You can tell the way that we live by what we are saying. So take that time, get it, go back and go through it, you know, and find out that piece that you need because it's beneficial. Yeah, that's me. That's it. That's me. I'm good.
Love you. We'll see you next week. God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Peace.
Peace. I'm trying not to play the outro.